This is my TNA Turning Point 2009 pay-per-view review. Pay-per-view just went off, and I gotta say, this was a very good pay-per-view from TNA. The last two matches of this pay-per-view is what really saved this pay-per-view, especially the main event. The main event, I don't know if I would say it is as good as Unbreakable 2005, but it was really damn close, and overall, I would classify both of them as, classic matches, 5-star matches. That's actually what I would give this match. It was that good as a main event, and that's one thing you haven't seen in TNA for a long time is a great main event. So the main events on this pay-per-view delivered, and you had two other solid matches on here, and everything else was, watchable or decent or a little below average. But the last two matches, like I said, really is what made this pay-per-view. So when you see the rating over there, I'm giving this pay-per-view overall an 8 out of 10. That's mainly due to the last two matches, and the women's cage match in the opener was good as well. So you had two excellent, matches at the end, and then you had, two other solid matches. Now, the opening match was for the X Division Championship. It was Homicide versus Amazing Red. Now, this was a pretty good X Division outing from these two. Now, it was a little slow pace for Red in this match. It kind of worked a little slow in some portions. It picked up a little bit, but it was one of those matches I kind of was expecting a little more from it, especially for it to be an opener. It wasn't like that, really exciting X Division opener. It was just pretty much like a little above average X Division match. I was looking for this match to be a little better than what it was, but still it was good for what it was. And Amazing Red does retain the X Division Championship after hitting the code red to Homicide. I'll give the match 3 stars. Good opener, but I was expecting a little more from it. Then the next matchup was the beautiful people of Velvet Sky, Madison Rain, and Lacey Von Erich versus Sarita, Taylor Wilde, and ODB. This match was where all the titles are on the line, the tag team knockouts titles and the singles title. Now, I hate when wrestling companies do this, and this is notorious Vince Russo booking when you do these tag matches or 6-man tags or something like this where a world title's on the line or something like that, and I just do not like when this happens, especially when you kind of make it even more confusing that at first you kind of built this match, I guess, before, on Impact or leading up to this pay-per-view as an all-for-nothing match, and with that you would think the logical sense there would be that whoever wins the match gets all the titles, but it was that if ODB gets pinned in the match, she loses the title to, I guess, whoever pins her. And then as far as the tag team belts, if Taylor Wilde or Sarita got pinned, they will lose the TNA Knockouts Tag Team Championships, and I guess whoever pins them, they'll pick, whichever one of the beautiful people would have became champions if that would have happened. Now, no titles change hands in this match. ODB pins Madison Rain in this match. This was the worst match of the evening. 4 stars. Went a little too long. It wasn't a long match, but it kind of dragged on. And Lacey Von Erich, whenever she got in the ring, it was just plain terrible. But thankfully, she wasn't in there any more than what she was, because if she was, it would have even been a worse of a match. Then the next matchup was Beer Money versus the Motor City Machine Guns versus the British Invasion for the TNA World Tag Team Championships. And this was a match that I was really hoping the Motor City Machine Guns finally go over and win the Tag Team Championships, because they are long overdue to winning the Tag Team Championships within TNA. And I would pretty much say the Motor City Machine Guns are the crime time of TNA. They're so over with the crowd. The fans like them, and they should be Tag Team Champions, but they never win. British Invasion just retain, kind of like, very predictable that they were going to retain the Tag Team Championships in a 2 and 1 4-star match. It was a little above average, I would say. The next matchup was Awesome Kong versus Terror and the 6 Sides of Steel. This was a good women's match, good back and forth action between these two. I did enjoy this match. I was kind of wishing maybe they would have been given a little more time, because I felt it was a little short. But for what they did in here, I thought it was pretty good. Now, was it one of those, greatest women's matches of this decade or anything? That some people thought this match could have been like. I thought this match was going to be one of the best women's matches we've seen in a long, long time, and unfortunately it didn't deliver to that level, but I would say it was a good overall women's match, and for what it was and what they did and the time they were given within the match, I thought it was, okay match, and pretty much on par with the opener. I'll give it 3 stars. Tara wins the match after a splash from the top of the cage to Awesome Kong. Like I said, a 3-star match. Then the next matchup was the six-man tag. It was Rhino and Team 3D versus D'Angelo, De Niro, Hernandez, and Matt Morgan. And this was pretty much just a very generic six-man tag. This is something that should have just been on Impact. It wasn't not pay-per-view worthy. I know they've been building the whole thing, up to this match, so it did have a storyline with it, but just the match quality of it, I just don't think it was worthy of being on the pay-per-view. And Rhino and Team 3D go over after Team 3D. It was Devon of Team 3D pretty much distracted Hernandez. Hernandez was going for the border toss to Rhino, and behind his back, Devon hit him with the steel chair. Then after the little distraction right there, Rhino was able to gore Hernandez. So, like I said, Rhino and Team 3D go over in this match. I'd give this 2.5 stars. It was some good stuff in it, but it was one of those matches that probably went on a little too long than what it did. And I think they should have had this match be like a no disqualification street fight instead of just pretty much being just a regular match. That was the one thing that kind of hurt it. It would have probably helped it out more if it had a gimmick, but some of these matches on this pay-per-view already had enough gimmicks with this pay-per-view, so I guess TNA didn't want to add a gimmick to this match, but this is probably one of the times where it would have made a lot of sense to throw a gimmick on it. Then the next matchup was a match that wasn't really looking forward to at all. It was Scott Steiner versus Bobby Lashley, and it turned into a no DQ Falls Count Anywhere match. Now, it wasn't the worst match of the night. The 6-woman knockouts tag was the worst match of the night. That was just an awful women's match. And this match wasn't bad. It was some good brawling in it. They did some decent stuff. It was at least, I would say, a watchable match. It wasn't as bad as I was expecting worse, so at least it beat my expectations, but my expectations were really nothing at all with this match. But it was at least a watchable match. And at the end of the match, the way the match ends is Bobby Lashley actually does the job in the match after they keep brawling outside the arena. They get back, and then behind the Spanish announce table, they had a little stand or whatnot behind there, and pretty much Scott Steiner gets one of the lead pipes from it, and it hits Bobby Lashley with it, and that's the way Bobby Lashley loses this match. And I'll give this match about 2 stars. It was not as bad as what I was expecting. It was at least watchable. Then the next matchup was the first match of the double main event. It was Kurt Angle versus Desmond Wolfe. And this was a very good match. Good back and forth stuff. A lot of good chain wrestling in here. Nigel McGuinness, or Desmond Wolfe now, pretty much did his European style of wrestling that a lot of us have known him to do. And it was just a very good technical match. Now, if you're not a fan of technical wrestling, it might not be the match for you, but if you're a fan of mat wrestling, technical wrestling, you will really enjoy this match a lot. And most of the time, if this match was on a card and what they did on here, most of the time it would be the match of the night. But with how good the main event was, the main event overshadowed it, but still, this match was very good. And I would even say that even though Desmond Wolfe won this match, Angle really made him look very good in this match. I will say the thing they did on Impact with Desmond Wolfe kind of getting the victory already on Kurt Angle leading up to this pay-per-view, you kind of already got it 1-to-1 right there, and didn't hurt him at all to tap out to Angle in this match. Angle wins this match after kind of using arm bar and some type of not rear naked choke, but some type of chokehold to Nigel McGuinness with his legs. It's kind of hard to describe. It's kind of like I don't know what you would call it. Pretty much some type of variation of of Fujiwara arm bar. And I would give this match 4 1/4 stars. Very, very good match. Like I said, most of the time that would be the match tonight if it wasn't for the main event. And then the main event was the triple threat match. That was AJ Styles versus Christopher Daniels versus Samoa Joe for the TNA World Heavyweight title. And this right here, now I'm going to say right here, now, was this as epic as Unbreakable 2005? Some may argue that it is, but I think that match still holds so much history behind it. It was such, a match that was so good back in 2005 that it kind of, just with the history behind it and stuff, with that match probably, is going to be one of the more memorable out of the two, even though this was as good as it, because I give this match 5 stars and I give the original one 5 stars as well. And this, just a lot of great stuff, good back and forth action from it. It's just one of those matches you have to see. This is one of the best matches of this year. I would say easily this is right now the match of the year, and probably will go down as match of the year. Seen some other matches that have been good in Japan and Ring of Honor as well, But I would say this match right here, it just was so good. It was, when you want to show someone a match that, is kind of like the, closest to a perfect match, this is one of them. This and, the Unbreakable match they had, and this was just a great match. Really enjoyed it. Pretty much all of them got everything in there. And the surprising thing is you saw, really no styles clash in this match. Joe did hit the Muscle Buster. Daniels didn't hit the Angel's Wing this match. A lot of them just hit their secondary finishing maneuvers. And it still was an excellent match and must-see, 5 stars. This match and the match before is the reason why you need to check this pay-per-view out. Like I said, some of the other matches, that other than, pretty much half the card really was nothing much at all, because there's 4 matches that were, at best like, 2 1/4 stars, 2.5 or lower. But the 2 main events were so good that you need to see this show, and AJ does retain the TNA World Heavyweight Championship, and I thought it was actually a good ending as well, because that was the one thing that I was really worried watching this match, that this match was going on so good for like 20, 22 minutes, and I was like, please do not fuck the ending up. And they actually didn't fuck the ending up. The ending came when Daniels hit the BME to Samoa Joe. AJ was outside the ring at about 1-2. Daniels was going for the pin on Samoa Joe. Then AJ hits the 450 on both of them. Then AJ pins Samoa Joe to retain the TNA Championship in a must-see match. Definitely match of the year so far. And like I said, overall, I give this pay-per-view an 8 out of 10. Definitely worth checking out for the last 2 matches. The women's cage match was good. The X Division opener, it was a little bit disappointing. I was expecting a little more from it, but still it was a solid match. And like I said, the main event and the Nigel match you need to see, or Desmond Wolfe versus Angle, that's the match you need to see as well. And yeah, that's it for my TNA Turning Point 2009 pay-per-view review. Alright, peace. This is my TNA Turning Point 2009 pay-per-view review. Pay-per-view just went off, and I gotta say, this was a very good pay-per-view from TNA. The last 2 matches of this pay-per-view is what really saved this pay-per-view, especially the main event. The main event, I don't know if I would say it is as good as Unbreakable 2005, but it was really damn close, and overall, I would classify both of them as, classic matches, 5-star matches. That's actually what I would give this match. It was that good as a Taylor Wilde in ODB. This match was where all the titles are on the line, the tag team knockouts titles and the singles title. Now, I hate when wrestling companies do this, and this is notorious Vince Russo booking when you do these tag matches or 6-man tags or something like this where a world title's on the line or something like that, and I just do not like when this happens, especially when you kind of make it even more confusing that at first you kind of built, you had 2 excellent, matches at the end, then you had, 2 other solid matches. Now, the opening match was for the X Division Championship. It was Homicide versus Amazing Red. Now, this was a pretty good X Division outing from these 2. Now, it was a little slow pace for Red in this match. It kind of worked a little slow in some portions. It picked up a little bit, but it was one of those matches I kind of was expecting a little more from it, especially for it to be an opener. It wasn't like that, really main event, and that's one thing you haven't seen in TNA for a long time, is a great main event. So the main events on this pay-per-view delivered, and you had 2 other solid matches on here, and everything else was, watchable or decent or a little below average. But the last 2 matches, like I said, really is what made this pay-per-view. So when you see the rating over there, I'm giving this pay-per-view overall an 8 out of 10. That's mainly due to the last 2 matches, and the women's cage match in the opener was good as well. So exciting X Division opener. It was just pretty much like a little above average X Division match. I was looking for this match to be a little better than what it was, but still it was good for what it was. And Amazing Red does retain the X Division Championship after hitting the code red to Homicide. I'll give the match 3 stars. Good opener, but I was expecting a little more from it. Then the next matchup was the beautiful people of Velvet Sky, Madison Rain, and Lacey Von Erich versus Sarita.